And I believe I'm now joined with my last guest of the evening, Andrea the Giant, right here, right now. Good evening, Andrea.
Hey, good evening, everybody.
How you doing?
I'm actually doing pretty good tonight.
And thank you so much for being on the show.
Oh, thank you. I very much enjoy getting out on the radio, the internet, and talking to my fans and doing these interviews. It's great.
With that said, let's go ahead and begin. Talk a little bit about yourself and how did your wrestling career got started?
Well, I think I have a unique entry into wrestling, and that was through roller derby, of all strange things. I did roller derby out of the Fayetteville, North Carolina area. Got into a promotional event at a local wrestling venue, and we got in the ring, and we were talking about our event. And I'm like, man, this is really cool being in here. And I had all these flashbacks to when I was much, much younger, and my grandmother showed me wrestling on the old black and white, and it just popped in my head. I was like, I can do this. Well, maybe I can. And after that show, me and my other friend Mia, we went and talked to the promoter, and one thing led to another, and sure enough, a couple weeks later, we began training.
That's very interesting, going from rollerblading to the wrestling ring. And I guess what it boils down to is that both rollerblading and wrestling, I guess the one thing they have each other more than anything is the physicality. You know,
Yes, yes. The derby is definitely hard hitting. You're going around on skates, and you're traveling about 18 miles an hour plowing into people. So good hard hitting experience. And then the translation into the wrestling ring, it was very, I don't know, it was actually, I thought, slightly easier until you start get into all the bumps and learning all the training and conditioning your body. And it's, you realize that these guys on a weekly basis basically go and beat themselves up. And, well, I got used to it, and now I like to do it.
you call yourself Andrea the Giant, and there's a
Yeah.
wrestling legend. He calls himself Andre the Giant. Who idea was it for you to call yourself Andre the Giant? Was it a wrestling company, a promotion, or was it your idea?
Well, I was wrestling as Crystal Chaos, and I had a character that I wanted to continue forward with. And the promoter said, well, we can't use that because we have somebody else named Chaos. So, he sat down and tried to come up with a name for me, and then he says, I got it. You're like the biggest girl I've ever seen in a wrestling ring. Let's go with Andrea the Giant. And at the time, we were working with Baby Doll, who was known as the Lady Giant, and we kind of talked to her just to see if it would conflict with what her name was in the past, and she said, now go for it. And so that's Andrea Giant began, and was it almost 6 years ago, got in the ring, and we had a tag team match for my first match, and, didn't fare too well for me, but, live and learn, and it was a great foundation for what was to come.
And when you had your first ever match, did you get the butterflies? Did you get the nervous heading into the match?
No, that's really something I get. I really look forward to the matches. What I don't like is all the posturing that you, as a fan, do not see backstage and all the politics that go on in indie wrestling. But what I live for is getting out there and having a good match and entertaining the crowd. I'm being a big girl here. I don't spend all my time flying around on the high ropes, doing the big high flying stuff. I can, but it's much better from a fan standpoint to engage the fans at some point during the match. This gets into psychology and what people come away with saying, hey, that was a really good match. And then you can just pull every single move out of your repertoire and put on a performance, and the fans will go, okay. But if you go out there and you engage them while you're wrestling and you're doing the moves and you put on this performance that somehow makes sense on some level that you don't have to tell the audience, but they grasp it, and I'll call that psychology, and there's just something there. Sometimes simpler is better, and I guess that's kind of where I spend a lot of my time is talking to the people. And there's body language and there's verbal stuff, and then there's the moves that you do on your opponent.
When it comes to a character being in the show, being inside the ring, do you like being the baby face or do you like being the heel?
I would say I prefer the heel, but you know, I've worked so many different promotions that they have me being face, being heel. It really doesn't matter at this point. What I go and do is just have a good performance and make sure everybody comes out safe, and that includes the fans. And if I have to be the heel and take somebody's soda and dump it on somebody, well, so be it.
And do you have any shows that you're going to be a part of that you would like to promote?
Yeah, actually, all my shows are posted up on my fan page, Andrea the Giant, on Facebook. And I just say if anybody wants to go and look for those, put Andrea the Giant in double quotes, and you'll find me. But I have a show coming up this month, Sunday, October 27th. There's a Carnival of Souls show for the Wrestling Alliance of the Rockies. And that is, the 21st, supposed to be over in Murray, Utah. And I have another show on October 27th down in Palm Desert for Alpha Omega Wrestling. And I'm going to be going for the ladies' title there against Tara Calloway out of California. And then the following day, on Sunday, October 28th, I'll be in Fresno, California at, North American Wrestling. And then, we have Total Wrestling Federation out of Sacramento, California on November 2nd. And then right now, the next show I have booked is over in Mexico at Mexicali on November 10th.
For those who are just tuning in, you're listening to Triple Threat Wrestling Radio right here on ITMIRadio.com. I'm joined with my final guest of the evening, Andrea the Giant. And if you are anywhere near those areas, check her out. You can check out her schedule, as she pointed out, on her Facebook. Just search Andrea the Giant and like her fan page, and she'll get you updated on what she's got in the works and upcoming matches and appearances. Considering you've been in wrestling for over 6+ years now, what do you consider as the highlight of your wrestling career?
The absolute highlight would have been wrestling Susan Tech Screen. When I was much younger, I remember watching her on TV and going, she can really move and do some fantastic stuff. And it may have been in a match against Moolah where I first saw her, but she is a wrestling legend. She's been in the industry for over 40 years, been the first lady to wrestle in Madison Square Garden, and to get in the ring with her and go toe-to-toe, and then afterwards hear that, I have the stuff, and she's just encouraged me to go further and work towards the top. That has to be it.
And what are some other goals you'd like to accomplish in your wrestling career?
Well, like anybody, I would like to make it to like WWE, TNA Wrestling, Ring of Honor, the big times in wrestling. Um, I also would like to do some traveling internationally. I'm talking with some folks now over in England and Italy, and hopefully those actually come into be. But next month, hey, I'm getting down to Mexico, and at least I'll be able to say check on the international stuff.
And what do you like the most of being a professional wrestler? You like the traveling? You like being in the ring? The fan interaction? What do you like the most being a wrestler?
I think the fan interaction for me is the biggest thing. Um, just to see somebody change their expression and smile, or turn away and hide from you because they think you're the biggest beast that they've ever seen. Um, that to me is priceless. You just can't find it anywhere else. And then to come away after the show and have everybody come up through the autograph sessions or whatever and just be like, wow, that was outstanding. Kudos to you. That stuff is great. You can't put a price on it, and that's what keeps me in wrestling.
So, what's your take on women wrestling as it is right now? Obviously, women wrestling has come a long way. You've seen a lot more women wrestling shows. You got the WSUs, you got the Shimmers, you got Shine Wrestling, and of course the Knockout division. Things are looking up
Yeah,
for them. The Divas division. I guess at least we can say with Sarah Durway now there, at least something good can happen from this. And
oh, it should. She's excellent in what she does, and I'm sure they're going to bring everybody up.
all I know is this is one thing that WWE better not screw up, and that's Sarah Durway. She's a remarkable talent, and it's good to see WWE finally open their eyes and to see something of her caliber. At least giving her an opportunity. At least take a good look at her, see what she can do. And I'm definitely looking forward to see what she can do for here on out. Um, so, who are some wrestlers out there that you like being in the ring the most? Who are like your favorite rivalries or favorite type of matches?
Well, the one gal who I've always enjoyed wrestling is the one that I started with, which would have been Mia Swenson with Ring Wars Carolina. She was just recently the AIWF Ladies National Champion, and I'm very proud of what she did. So if I ever get the opportunity to wrestle her again, it would be an honor. But basically, I take a look at all the ladies that are out there, and I want to wrestle them all. The biggest problem that we have in ladies wrestling is that there's just not enough of us. You have to travel away to have a show where you actually can find a lady. And one of the things that you will see on the indies is you don't have a lot of promoters that are willing to pay to bring ladies in like they would the guys. So what you have is, if you really want to do a show, you might have to go and fork up some money at some point and actually go and travel and say, hey, I'm here to do this show, which is all fine and dandy, but, those long hours on the road really add up. And I'd just like to see the lady wrestling elevated a bit more on the indie scene.
Now that I think of it, I'm definitely understanding where you're coming from. That's obviously not a whole lot of not just women wrestlers, but caliber talent in certain areas. And like you said, you may have to travel a little farther than usual to have matches with a lot of women wrestlers. So, um,
Yeah, most definitely. And what you see is the ladies falling back to the ballet position inside the wrestling venue, and a lot of them really want to go and wrestle, and they don't have the opportunity. So, one of those things is the people are out there. If you have any notion that you may want to do this, um, get into it and bring your girlfriend along. And I'm talking to you guys out there, of course, now. Bring them in and introduce them to wrestling. Wrestling is one of those things that anybody can do it if they are appropriately trained, and that's the key.
a little earlier on the show, I had a talk with another wrestler, and we talked about backyard wrestling and how I guess wrestling term a shortcut and not want to get the proper training. I mean, what's the reaction you get when you see wrestlers want to go that route rather than go to the proper training?
Well, they bring down the show, in my opinion. You have a lot of issues with wrestlers not being safe in the ring and then outside the ring as well, endangering the crowd. And I just can't stand that personally. I want to wrestle safe. I want to put on a show. I want to be able to do another show. And I certainly want the fans to come back and not be injured by, chairs being thrown or whatever. And in the subtleties of what it is to be a professional wrestler, in the psychology of the matches, it's just usually not there. It's just a whole bunch of hits and stuff, and it doesn't really make sense. And people will say that was a real cluster, and indeed it is. And so it's okay to kind of, in my opinion, to get maybe your feet wet. In the backyard, I would say try not to. Really, the thing is if you want to wrestle, find a individual who has been in the business preferably over 10 years, that has good lineage to somebody that's, let's say, a name in the business, that knew what they were doing, that trained them. And, find out what that history is. Find out who they trained. Find out how successful those people have been. And then, and that's your background research, then and only then make a decision who you want to train with.
When it's all said and done, and when you look back in your career, and when you get to that moment when it's time to hang up the boots, how does Andrea the Giant likes to be remembered?
As somebody that gave her all, that entertained the people and put a smile on the face, or just created that memory of somebody that says, in the future, I want to do that wrestling. I remember that person, and they inspired me to go on and do the wrestling.
Again, you can like Andrea the Giant's Facebook fan page. Again, search Andrea the Giant. And check out the shows that she mentioned. The dates and times are posted on the Facebook fan page. Andrea,
Yep.
I want to say thank you so much for joining me. Great
I
talking to
appreciate it.
you. And best of success and keep going. And again, thank you for your time.
All right. Thank you very much.
You have a good night.
Good night.
All right, bye-bye. That was my last interview guest of the evening, Andrea the Giant.